You're listening to The Angry Designer, where we cut through the industry bull to help frustrated graphic designers survive and thrive.
So we're here on a funny day. We're here on a different day.
And we're here on a different day. Yep, that's correct.
Because I guess this week just got
It got away from us. We had a lot of extracurricular activities after work that we couldn't
Sean's
manage.
got band practice.
Yeah, there's lots of soccer going on. That's right.
Daughter's birthdays.
Yeah.
Right, it's a birthday month.
Yes,
birthday month.
That's right. And speaking of birthdays,
yes. And there was even a birthday surprise for me yesterday because my birthday is tomorrow.
That's right.
It was kind of fun.
Yeah,
that whole escape
was good.
room.
It was good.
They took me for lunch.
Yeah.
And then the escape room, which was actually, I've never done one of those.
I know, it's pretty cool, right?
It was really cool.
Exactly. And the best part of that, and I was talking to this with my wife last night, and it's like we pulled together as a team.
We did.
And we all worked together.
I know.
There were pods working on different parts.
Right. And somehow it all kind of started off slow as everybody was working in small pods. Yep. And then near the end, it was like
we're all together.
Everybody brought it. It was a really cool experience.
It was. I know.
I always thought those things were for nerds. And when you guys talked about it, I was like, wow, cool thing, Sean, that you do. But I mean, experiencing it was actually a really good time.
Yeah. It is kind of nerdy.
I'm just kidding. No, it was a good time.
Yeah, it was really fun. Yeah.
And then you guys filled up my office with balloons.
Yes.
Surprised me with that. And nobody apparently knew I had a latex allergy. So I was like, can you imagine?
Oh, jeez.
No, I'm kidding. So yeah, it was a fun birthday.
It was good.
Right? And then lucky me last night to celebrate my daughter's birthday, she had a little birthday sleepover, right? Which is a little nuts, and so I'm a little tired.
Yep.
Right.
Fair enough.
But in the whole birthday fiasco, birthdays this month and birthday and blah 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 blah. Tomorrow's my birthday. Do you remember whose birthday was the day before my birthday?
You mean today? No, I don't.
25 years ago. Today started zfactor.
Oh, are you serious?
Yes, the day before my birthday, 25 years ago, we started zfactor. So today is zfactor's birthday.
Oh my God! I should have got more balloons.
It's just like, how did you not know? So even though you guys got me this, I'm thinking we celebrate today. We celebrate zfactor's birthday, right? I mean, again, you guys got me a 15-year Scotch, Dalwhinnie. Check that bad boy. And I could have drank this, depressed, alone at night over my birthday tomorrow.
Well, you should have. I mean,
should have depressed, alone, great. But I think. Dude, we open this up and we celebrate zfactor's birthday today.
Oh my God, this is
right.
Okay.
Who else could I celebrate that with other than you?
Oh,
right? That's
yes,
perfect.
Yes, this is awesome.
Yeah, so you open up that bad boy.
Oh,
yeah,
gosh.
Absolutely, dude. I would love to share that with you, especially on today. So today's topic.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm thinking we're fucking recording this on zfactor's birthday. Just by coincidence, it all worked out like this that we're recording today. So I'm like, you know what? 25 fucking years.
Yeah.
Today's episode's going to be on zfactor.
Yes.
100%. The journey, how we started, about the business. This isn't going to be 25 years of logos and this and that. This is actually going to be, the highlights, the lowlights. I figured this would be a perfect opportunity to just talk about what the past 25 years have been like.
Well,
no?
That's awesome, man.
That's why I didn't want to. I'm like, I was sad that you didn't remember.
I know.
But,
how could I not remember? Cheers.
But cheers to this. Oh fuck! Before that, I gotta smell that. That Scotch is just. So I'm a fan of this peat.
Good.
This smoke.
Smoky. It's very smoky. Oh boy!
So I'm gonna enjoy this sip. Thank you. Happy birthday, zfactor.
Cheers! Happy birthday to you and zfactor as well. Did you plan that? Or was this having your little 25-year-old baby the day before you were?
No, absolutely didn't plan it at all.
Oh, okay. So it
Absolutely
just
didn't
happened
plan it
out
at all.
that way.
It, I mean, again, I had set a goal for myself, right? Like I was,
Okay, yeah,
no.
forward.
In all
Yeah.
fairness, we will break this down, okay?
Yeah, okay.
Fuck it. Let's just talk about it.
No.
No, it's
Let's do
perfect
this.
because I mean, I just got shit I want to make sure I covered.
Okay.
Right, and it was just random, but you know what? You're right. So the whole thing started.
Yes.
Right when this little Italian guy Massimo was watching one of his favorite stars, Tony Danza.
Tony Danza, right? Yes.
In Who's the Boss?
Yep.
Right, and Tony used to work for Angela Bauer,
Right.
who had an ad agency.
Right.
Right, and I was a young kid, but I was always fascinated about her pitches and doing creative and coming up with creative ideas, and I was just like, that's really fucking cool. I
Yes.
want to do that.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how.
Ah.
Right, I didn't know how.
Days before the internet, right?
Right. Well, again, it was completely days before the internet, which is insane, right? Because again, this goes I mean, God, this goes like 1940s when I used to watch Who's the Boss. No. Right? No. Like that was way before the internet, right?
Yeah,
Because that was what? 80s?
80s,
It
yep,
was the
for sure.
80s, right? And it was a great show. It's fucking great. But it was just like, I want to do that, but I couldn't figure out how.
Yeah, how does she?
Right?
Yeah.
How does one do this and come up with these amazing ideas,
Yeah,
right? Because
yeah.
again, I was obviously too young and Mad Men was not on.
Yeah, there was no such
that
thing
shit was
then. Yeah,
happening,
yeah.
but I wasn't around for that, right? So then I went to high school.
Yeah.
Right? And I knew I wanted to own an ad agency. Okay. But I had no idea how I was going to get there yet. But I was like, nope, I'm going to own the ad agency. Right. And so I put it out in the universe. But, again, I was still young. Right. And in grade 9, I'd met this teacher, Miss Service. Okay.
Service? That
Miss
was her name?
Service. Her name was Miss Service. She was a nice teacher. So I'm not going to make
Wait.
fun of that name. But
Wait, was her first name Anita?
no.
Anita Service?
Anita Service. Anita Service.
Sorry, I had to do that.
And she introduced me to graphic design.
Oh.
Right. And this was really, really early on because I knew what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Right. But it wasn't until, my first year in high school that I was introduced to graphic design. And again, I was a creative kid, right? I used to play with Lego and all these awesome toys. And I used to draw like my heart out. But, again, I didn't know you could make money from this. Right.
Yes.
So, and then growing up as a little Italian guy, your parents are always pushing you to be a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant, right? Because that's apparently the only jobs that were out there. at
That's
the time.
success, right? That's it. It was like, what about
What else is there to do?
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing else. Don't consider it.
So she was like, you know what? She's like, if you want to own an ad agency, through graphic design is how you're going to get there, right?
Right.
And again, ad agency or the idea of pitching, it was still rough at that time. But as soon as she said, with what you're able to do, your creative side, you could go into graphic design and you could own your shop by being a graphic designer. Now, again, it fleshed out later on, like once I went to college and I realized what kind of agency we wanted.
Right.
But I was like, holy shit, that's it, right? Like I'm going to own an agency and I'm going to get there through being a graphic designer. And then I took every possible graphic design course through high school, and I learned how to use a Mac early on.
In
right?
high school?
In high school, we had a fucking great high school, right? And she was such an amazing teacher. I had 2 official graphic design courses, right? It was like grade 10, but I was in grade 9 when I took it. And then there was a grade 12.
Oh.
And then, after it was done, I was just like, what now, right? I was really bummed because I'm like, shit, I got 2 years of high school to go and there's no graphic design left.
Oh,
So she was so awesome. She gave me an independent study. I was the only student in the class, right? Gave me a credit for it. And again, she's like, it'll just be your, independent study. You'll get a full credit just for graphic design because I really know you want to do this, right? So, and then, so I did that. And then in that independent study, one of the things I got to do was create the grade 11 graphic design course. So in essence.
Wait.
Yeah. It was backwards, right? So it's grade 10. Grade 12, independent study. And she's like, you know what? Let's figure out together how
to do this.
How to do a grade 11 course.
Holy
what we could do. Oh, it's
shit.
fucking, she was an amazing teacher. Wow. I was really lucky. So this is why it's like, I don't hate on all teachers.
I was just, yes.
Right?
I was going to say.
I had a shitty college experience.
There we
but
go.
My high school teacher made a world of difference.
Yes.
Right? And she molded me, pointed me in a direction. And I still to this day I feel like I owe everything to her, in that sense for pointing me in the right direction.
Yeah, totally.
And then it was, and then what really sealed the deal was then I had my first girlfriend. Okay. Yeah. And of course, okay, she's way gone, right? But But her dad once, sat us down, and he was a business guy.
Right.
And he was a really nice guy, right? Really, really, really nice guy. And he sat us both down and he goes, okay, guys. And he gave us each a piece of paper and a pencil. And he's like, on this piece of paper, I want you to write down a goal that you're going to hit in 10 years.
Oh.
And like, even before he could finish 10 years, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna win. It was already down, right? And it was like, it was that combination of events between like, Angela Bauer and then figuring out graphic design and the passion for graphic design.
Yep.
And then it was that set a goal for yourself, right? And it was just like, it just beelined.
Yeah.
Right? It was clear as fucking day.
Yeah. You had you did not waver in any way.
Nope.
You were not going to be convinced by your parents to be a lawyer.
Nope.
Because you would have been an awesome lawyer.
Guilty.
Like, yeah, that's right. Like the Italian Johnny Cochran.
It'd be more like my cousin Vinny.
Oh, there we go. The two youths.
The two youths in the car. So it was like clear as fucking day.
Yeah.
Right? I was like, that's my goal for 10 years. And it was just like that whole setting a goal thing was so fucking huge, honestly, because it was as though like my whole world just parted and I could see that line. And I knew there's gonna be a lot of shit along the way. And I was in high school. I knew there's gonna be a lot of fun and this and that.
Yep.
But it's like it was so crazy that I was able to see that. And I think that made all the difference, right? Because then basically every job that I took from that point forward, I was like, I would take it on the whole, basis of, is this going to bring me closer or take me further away from my goal? Right. So I didn't go work at like, a fast food place. Right.
Yeah.
Instead, I tried working at a retail shop because I would learn how to sell. Right. And then I, tried to get a job back then there was Kmart. Remember Kmart?
Yeah,
right.
I remember Kmart.
And then I wanted not a job at Kmart, but I wanted a job in the photo department at Kmart so I could learn how photos got processed, learn about cameras. Because again, back then, that was all the rage, right? Like the nice, SLR cameras and all that. Yeah. So it was like I was taking all these jobs.
This is in high school.
This was all in high school,
so
right?
You're probably like a 16-year-old kid.
At that point, I was like, 15, 16, right? Yeah. And it was just like hitting up that goal, right? And everything I took was always to take me to that direction, right?
Yeah.
And then I went to college.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is where shit started getting really real, and now I'm jaded about it, of course. So getting to college, I had I had already had freelance customers. I already like my very, very first logo job, was in high school. I was like 15 years old and I charged $20. And I was like on top of the fucking world. I was like $20. And all I did is draw that thing. And $20.
Here you go.
And everybody's like, oh, I love what you did. I want to put on It was shit. It was horrible. But I was just like, wow, I can make money doing this. It was fucking unbelievable. So then I had freelance gigs up until college, right? And I was already on a Mac. And then first year of college, and I got into Sheridan. Yeah. And at the time, Sheridan was one of the better.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah. I think it was like one of the top ones, right there.
Yeah.
That one, I think Conestoga was still pretty good back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was a fan of Humber, but anyway.
Yeah.
But regardless, it was a struggle because it was like all of a sudden it was like they were taking a big step back, right? They're like, oh no, we don't touch computers until the third year. And I was like, but guys, like, there's no question computers is the way this industry is going. You're teaching me how things were done 20 years ago with layups and cutting things. And it's like, oh no, it's theory and this and that. And I mean, again, it wasn't what I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
And fucking color chips, dude. I hated painting color chips. You would have to do like 50 different colors and all the different gradients and this. And it was just, and in between that, and then it was subjective, right? Like all the grading was subjective. They're like, here's, you have to ink. It was like the black and white ink. Did you guys have to do that?
A black and white.
It'd be black and white ink, abstracts that, would represent a word like sheer.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. So again, and I remember I was like, and this one I was like, this is just a bunch of bullshit because I came up with something and it was like a big block. And then I just sheared a tiny little thread on top, right? Just because it's like a shear isn't a cut. It's just like,
it's just a,
And they're like, oh, I don't think it, encapsulates or it encompasses shit.
Yeah.
And I was just like, dude, this is a bunch of bullshit, right? And they graded you on it though. It wasn't like, I could care less if they gave me their opinion, right? They're entitled to their opinion. But to grade somebody based on their opinion, which
Right.
is subjective,
Right.
that's the part I had a problem about.
And see, and the thing with that is, this is what, and I guess we have this beef with the post-secondary education,
Especially the current one,
especially what we
Yeah,
have now, is there's no points for creativity.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
something like that, to me, there should be these guys, these teachers, you're in this position.
Yep.
You should be aware of what is
Yes.
normal
Yep,
and
yep,
what
yep.
sheer. They've done this all the time, right?
Yes.
They've done, this is part of the curriculum, so
Yep.
they know. So they've seen all the shears that they have,
And
the scissors cutting
They
through
might even
shear.
have in their mind what they want
That's
to see.
exactly it.
Right?
But they see something different.
Yep.
They don't understand that.
Yep.
And then you get penalized. for that.
Exactly. Right.
How fucked up is
and
that?
that's so of course then,
Instead
you know,
of-
I questioned them on it.
Yeah.
And this was when it got to the point where I was like, guys, like this is kind of stupid. Like, you know, I still completed the task.
Yeah, it was done.
Right. It was done. The quality was good. There was no smears or smudges or anything.
Yeah, yeah.
And but you know, you just didn't agree with
Right.
my idea.
Yeah.
But you can't, you know, grade me like a C or a D based
Yes.
on the fact that you didn't like it.
Yes.
You know, like that. And it's, and we went back and forth with this and how they were the experts and they had to be trusted. And I was like, dudes, this is wrong. And that's when they're like, you know, you'll never make it in this business with that attitude. And I mean, you never fucking say that.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
to somebody
yeah.
who's got a clear as fucking day goal, right? You do not.
Yes.
So that's when I was just like, fuck
Yeah.
you guys.
I will. You
I'm gonna
watch me.
fucking show you, okay? And like, fuck you, douchebags.
Yeah, yeah.
So fucking bad, right?
yeah.
So then I was like, look, what am I gonna do, right? And I had to make a plan. And just by coincidence, that college also had an advertising and design course. Oh. Okay. So I knew that I was already on a path of being a graphic designer, but I was like, you know what? Obviously, you guys aren't going to fucking teach me shit. So I'm going to continue my own graphic design. I'm a passionate designer. I love design. I'm just going to keep going with that.
Yeah.
Right. And then, you know, and I'll learn the other side of the business.
There you go.
With the advertising and
Right.
design course.
You probably had a really good base layer of what graphic design was anyway going
Because
into
of-
this.
exactly,
Because
right?
of what you were
Yep.
doing in high school.
And that's why I
right?
was like, screw it. I don't
Yeah,
need
fuck
you
this.
guys,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'm going to learn how the business side works.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn about marketing. I'm going to learn about, you know, media buys, which were important back when we started, of course. And
Yeah.
I'm going to learn how all that works.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I kind of got both sides, right?
Yes.
So screw you guys, because I want the whole agency, not just to be,
Yeah.
you know, like pushing somebody else's, you know, order all day long.
Yes.
And so then I was like, okay, I'm going to apply to this other course, the advertising and design course.
Yeah.
Well, fucking sure enough, I didn't get into that course.
What?
And then shit got real
Oh, no.
because I was panicking. And I'm like, how? Because again, that course was like, they didn't want to look at your portfolio. They're like, nope, this isn't a graphic design course. This is the
This
other
is
side.
different.
You needed
Yeah.
more business expertise. And most of the people who went into that course came from the business side.
Right.
And I was like, no, you don't understand. I have to. I absolutely. So I wouldn't accept no. Right. So I went and talked to the coordinator and I'm like, dude, right? Like you can't not let me in this course.
Yeah.
And so he was like, well, you know, fine. I'll put you on the wait list. Okay. I'll put you on the wait list and we'll see. But just to warn you, this course is, you know, like out of 1,000 applicants, only 80 get in and it's really tight. And I'm like, shit, right? And he's like, so the ones that usually get in, they usually, you know, the wait list, we never pull from the wait list. I'm like, it's okay. I'll get there. I'll get there. Right. So first week into summer, right? I call him up. Right. And I'm like, hey, it's Massimo Zeffarino. I don't know if you remember me or not, but I'm the guy who really wanted to get in the course. And, you know, and you put me on the waiting list. He's like, oh, yeah. I remember you. Right. I'm like, did I get it? And he's like, no. He's like, it's, you know, but, you know, check
too
back,
early.
you know,
Keep checking.
and I'll let you know. And I was like, okay, fine. Right.
An hour later.
The next week.
Oh, no, the next week.
Same day. I call back. Hey, it's Massimo Zeffarino. Right. I leave him a message. He didn't answer. Right. The third week. Again. All fucking summer long, dude. Every week I left the same message. Hey, it's Massimo Zeffarino calling. I don't know if you remember me. And it's the exact same thing, right?
Same message. Just wondering where we are with my acceptance.
So again, he never picked up the phone after that, right? He really never did take my call again. And then what happened is the first week back in college, I was like, I'm screwed, right? I showed up, right? And I was there like, okay, well, what else can I do? Because I love the college, right?
Yeah.
I luckily saw him in the hall. And I went up to him like, hey, Ian, do you remember me? Right? And he's by look and he's like, because he recognized me. He didn't know my name. I was like, oh, it's Massimo Zeffarino. And he's like, oh, you're the guy who's been and he's like kind of laughing. And I'm like, you know, okay, so anything happened? Like anything?
Yeah.
He goes, well, you know what? Nobody has dropped out. I'm sorry, right? He goes, but I'll put you at the top of the list. He goes, sometimes first day of school, people just don't show up and they just don't tell us, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. He's like, yeah, just meet me back here, whatever, right? Yeah. So of course, fucking first day of school, I'm registered for a completely another class now, right? I'm registered for business. I was like, I guess it's going to be a lot longer truck to get there. Yeah. But I'm like, fuck it though. He said to meet him there. Yeah. I sat and waited in front of his office at 7 a.m. Okay, I sat there. There was no cell phones back then where you could be. So I was fucking just do right. Yeah. Sure enough, half an hour later, right? Yeah. Elevator opens up. There he is. He steps out. He sees me. Fucking breaks out laughing. He's like, holy shit.
Dude.
Right? Yeah. And he was. And I'm like, well, anything? And he's like, I'm sorry, man. Not a single person has dropped out. He's like, everybody is registered as of yesterday, right? Damn. But then he's like, but I said, I've never in my life experienced somebody who wanted it so fucking bad. I'm going to let you in.
Oh, right? No way.
So he's like, even if I have to put a chair in the corner and you're not at my desk, he goes, you've earned this. You obviously want this. So boom, right? So then I ended up in that core. I know, right? It was fucking fantastic. And it was perfect because I was paying my way through college. Through graphic design. And I actually got a job in graphic design as an in-house designer for a watch company while I was still going to school in the advertising and design course. So here I was learning, on the job training, doing trade show stuff, doing package designs, doing fucking watch designs and watch strap designs. It was so cool for a college kid. And again, they were a startup. They just needed someone with design chops. Yeah. I was like young, eager, and I'm like, hungry. No, I'm totally doing this, right? So it was fucking great, right? So that was so again, college was a great experience. Yeah. It's just my graphic design profs were dickheads.
Yes. You just needed to go into the right spot.
Oh, right? Or
I don't know. That's hard to say. I think that was probably the best, but it was the tenacity that got you in. Like if most kids,
100%,
most kids would be like, you try 3 or 4 times, and then okay,
100%.
No.
So needless to say, it was like working there, and then I was working at the watch company, and it was okay, but I knew I wanted more, right? So, so then I ended up getting a job at an agency locally, right? And my parents, I was living out of town. Yeah. And my parents like, look, you want to start a business, move back home, right, for a little while. And again, I'm Italian. We stay home till we're like 50 years old, live with our parents. And they're like, so then this way, when you want to start your business, you can start it here and you don't have to worry about your costs, right? Yeah. So worked for this agency, didn't really work out, right? A lot of like internal drama, but I learned the politics side of the agency through this place, right? Okay. But I was there for a long time and I learned.
Was it a big agency?
No, it was a small agency. It was a small. It was similar size to what we are now. Yeah.
Was
very
this in
similar.
Oakville?
It was smaller. It was half. No, it was here in Kitchener, Waterloo. Here in Kitchener, Waterloo.
Oh, okay.
And then so I left, right? And I left, and it was too bad I left because I liked the place, but it was just too much internal drama there, and I was just.
How long did you work there for?
Almost 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, almost 2 years, right?
Okay.
And then what had happened is then I left, and I was like, well, I'm living at home, so I don't have to worry about it. 2 weeks after I left, okay, I get a random phone call from someone who had no fucking idea who they were. And they're like, hey, is this Massimo Zavarino, right? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, he goes, you don't know me, but so-and-so from your old agency just came, and pitched my company, to work with them. I was like, okay, like random.
Yeah, why?
And he's like, and they pitched me all this really cool stuff. And I had recognized one of the companies that they pitched me that they did work for. Right. So I called up the owner of the company to see, how they liked working with them. And the owner of the company said, they liked working with the company, but they remembered you, the person who would always do their work and service them, right? And he's like, your name came up, and he's like wondering where you are because now you're not with them, and he doesn't want anybody else working on his stuff. Would you be interested in creating some stuff for us? I was like, holy shit. Nice.
Yeah.
Right? I was just like, whoa.
A cold call the other way.
Exactly. It was like a cold call. They called me, right? And this is where I started learning that whole customer for life, right? Because I treated my customers so well that it was just like, well, why not, right? I was like, well, hell yeah. And then it was just like, well, who else? liked working with me. So
Right.
of course I picked up phone, called the second guy. He's like, yeah,
oh, there
I
you
was
are.
worried. He goes, absolutely. I'd like to keep working with you. And I'm like,
shit.
really? Even though I don't even have a name for my company. He's like,
Yeah.
yeah. He goes, as long as, you're still
you're
working
doing
on
it.
it.
Yeah.
So I had called like all of those companies and I had 5 of them agree to work with me. And here I had business.
Wow.
Before, like I was hustling, right? I was
Yeah.
like, I drove out to go see him and I was just like, wow. And I had business before I even had a fucking company name, before I had a logo. This is why when people come and they're like, oh, I need a logo before I start my business. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
you don't. You need customers.
Yes.
You need fucking work. Right?
Yes,
That's
yes.
what you need. So,
Yeah.
so that officially is how Z Factor started.
Wow.
Right. So technically, I guess you can say I started the work 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
25 years ago, but it was 25 years today that I was just like Z Factor. That's the name. That's what I registered legally.
Right.
And okay, so remember, I said my girlfriend's father at the time, who's like, write the goal.
Yep.
So
10
as soon as I
years- 10
registered,
years, right?
10 years,
Yeah.
right? So I hit it in 9.
Oh,
Okay, I hit it a year early.
Nice.
And pick up the phone. I call him up, right? I'm like, hey, Mr. Moore, this is, back then, believe it or not, people call me Max. And I was
Yes,
like, this I know, right? We don't speak of those days too often. I was like, hey, this is Max Zeffirino. Do you remember? He's like, oh, yeah, how are you? Whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, listen, I don't know if you remember this, but, you had made me write this thing. He goes, yeah, I totally remember, and, goes, how did it work out for you, right? And I was like, well, I started my business.
Yeah.
And now I need an accountant.
Yeah.
Do you want to be my
You wanna be-
accountant? Right? Because he was an accountant. So of course he's laughing. It was like, so it was a great way to catch up. And he was like my accountant for the next 12 years.
No shit.
Yeah. So it was really kind of cool. It was neat. It was kind of,
Yeah, that's
it
like
was
a
really
full
cool.
circle kind of moment, right?
It really, like
Yeah,
that was
everything
just
kind of.
and that was 25 years ago today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I think we've talked about the name before.
Yeah.
And now I was under the impression that it was the Zeffirino factor, right? But that's not the case.
Absolutely. No, and it never was.
Yeah.
See, some things have never changed, right? I've always been this, no, it's not about me. It's not about me. And I always knew I wanted a bigger agency.
Right.
Not that there's anything wrong with freelance. I just knew I wanted a bigger shop.
Yes.
Right? I always had this vision of like cool shit and people skateboarding and inside, which you kind of have,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so we'd come across this name. So my girlfriend at the time, a newer one,
A different
obviously,
one,
a
yeah,
different
yeah.
one, several later. And
Oh, I remember those. Yeah.
and she had gotten a job, and inside of this manual, they had this term that they would, when they interviewed people, they would rate them on this thing called the Z factor back then. And they had said, this was, and the Z was a level of zeal that this person brought to the job. And when I was like, holy shit,
Yeah,
that's
cool.
the fucking name.
Yeah.
Like, that's perfect, right?
Yeah.
Like, the Zeffirino thing is just a coincidence.
Yeah,
I
it just
promise
happens
you,
to be.
I promise.
Yeah,
I promise.
no. But it's kind of one of those. What do they call that? Like a serendipitous moment, right?
It was.
It's like it's not that, but
You take it if you got it.
yeah.
Which we
I
did,
mean,
right?
I never thought of that at that point. But the zeal factor,
And it was, and
is what it is.
Because
Yeah.
again, fire,
That's
energy,
cool.
passion,
Yes.
and I mean again,
Yes.
and even the color,
Yeah.
red,
Yep.
passion,
Yes.
right? Because again,
Yes.
everything was it was intentfully done,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So that's how we finally got our name. We registered the business immediately, and that was 25 years ago. So that was
25 years.
pretty fucking crazy, right?
Holy shit!
So then, so I got this work,
Yeah.
right? Got the 5 customers, and it was good work. So right away, it was steady, right? It was just like there was a lot of work, but it was like, how am I going to differentiate myself from everybody else out there, right? Because Kitchener-Waterloo at that time,
There's a glut of
there was
agencies.
34 other advertising agents. Like you picked up the Yellow Pages.
Yeah.
Yellow Pages were like Google for in book form of just all the
for you young
companies.
folks out there. Yeah.
It was literally right. So it was a big book with just all every business name, that there would be in that town. And there was 34 other ad agencies.
Wow.
Right. And they were all over the place in town. I remember them, right? Like there was Scribblers Club. And Bright House, Media Focus, right?
Yes, I worked there.
Did you really?
Yes, I did.
So I remember I used to drive by Media Focus every day
On
when I would
Park
go to
Street.
high school. Yeah, right on
Yeah,
Park Street,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
The house is
yeah.
still there.
Yeah.
And I remember looking, going, I'm gonna have that one day.
Oh.
I want that. Like I want that.
Yes.
It was just neat, right?
Yeah,
So
it was a cool building.
there was 34 other businesses, and I was just like, how the fuck am I gonna stand out here,
Yeah.
right? So this is like where the idea came from. Grew up in the trade industry. Coincidentally, 4 of those 5 companies that came along for the ride were all in the industry world. Like they were all trade companies, right?
Oh, okay.
One was a cylinder manufacturer. One, was made like veneer for like furniture companies. They weren't exciting.
Yeah,
But the
nothing-
thing is, it was cool. The company that called me was an elevator installation company.
really?
So random.
Yeah.
But I'm just sitting there thinking, holy shit, like, this is the shit that I grew up, because my dad was always, working in his
Yep.
hands, all my uncles. I knew that space. And then the more I got into it, the more I was like, there's like trade magazines out there, metal forming, welding, injection molding, really boring shit. OEM magazines, right?
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is, people were paying money to put their ads in these magazines, and they didn't have good material. They had shit material.
It's crap. And if you look at those kind of magazines, those trade show magazines, they look like ass.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like somebody's grandkids or nephews is putting these ads together.
And it was.
And then so when you get something, what you've got, boom, it
right?
stands out, right?
So that was my pitch.
Yeah.
I would call these guys up, and it was just like, and again, pick up the phone and call, pick up. And they were all, back then it was, you'd pick up the phone and call anybody within an hour drive.
Yeah, that's right.
Because unfortunately,
That's right. Yeah,
there was no internet, to this degree how we have now, right?
Yes.
And it was like, listen, you're dropping like $2,000 on this ad, and it looks horrible, right? It's not working. Let me create an ad for you. And back then, magazines were giving 15% kickbacks to agencies.
Oh.
So I was like, look, I'll do it for free,
Yeah.
because some of these ads were like full page ads. They were paying like $6,000-8,000 for this. And I'm sitting there thinking, holy shit, like I could make $1,000
Yeah, just on
and
this ad.
it doesn't charge him anything.
Yeah.
Like it's so of course
Yeah.
they're all like, sure,
Sure,
let's see
definitely.
what else you got.
Right.
Right. So then it was literally like shooting fish in a barrel, right? It was just like boom, boom. And then again, you do one ad for him. Right. Then it's just like the next month. Well, let's do another one. Let's do
going.
it. Then it's just like, well, now you're in with the company. So we were doing their trade magazines. We were doing all this stuff. Or sorry, their brochures, their
yeah.
trade shows,
Yep.
right? Their business cards.
Yep.
We'd update logos, and
Yep.
it was just such a rush. Like we had grown within the first 3 years. We went from literally 2 in my basement,
Yep.
like, and I think we had a staff of like 12. Like it just shot up
Yeah.
like crazy.
Wow.
It was it was hard to control, because again, here I was young and crazy and stupid, but I had no fucking idea, right? Like literally, it was such a rush.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was such a good time to do this.
Totally.
Until the first recession came, the industrial recession that we worked through. So there was
year
a
was that?
recession in like 2002. It's the industrial recession. It wasn't like the whole industry just
tanked.
fucking tanked.
Oh, shit.
So, and again, because all of our business was like B2B,
yeah.
right? The first thing people do is they pull their
advertising.
marketing, right? They pulled their marketing, which sucked, because we had some great companies. We were doing work for like Toyota Industrial. We had some American customers down in Michigan that we were driving 3-4 hours for. Like it was such an awesome time, right? And again, the vibe, everybody was like, like 20 something back then, right? Because it was just like,
so you had the energy to do this, guys,
Yeah,
to drive
right?
to Michigan.
Go,
exactly.
right? So the recession hit, and and of course we took a huge hit from that, right? Because again, we lost all of these customers, and so then it was just like, well, shit, unfortunately we had to downsize, right? We took it down from like 12
What was your staff
people.
at that time? 12 people.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
wow.
we were
that's
like,
great.
and
Oh,
then
geez.
it was crazy, and again, crazy growth, right?
Yeah.
Not all designers,
Yeah.
right? Because we
Yes.
had sales reps, we had an
Right.
account manager,
Right.
we had so it was a little crazy. But then we went down to like 4 people,
Yeah.
right? And it was just like it really heartbreaking. Like that was a real big lesson there about like I didn't regret. Like the niche was incredible,
Yeah.
but like wow, what a kick in the nuts that was,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So then we just started taking all this other work. We were like, okay, well, let's hit up the retail stores,
Right.
restaurants, this, that, and we started kind of, being a little bit more broad.
Right.
And then that went okay.
Yeah.
Right. Like it did. It was okay. It didn't feel as expert, like it didn't feel, because again, now we were like really spreading ourselves across a whole bunch of industries. Now we had like a tanning franchise that had like, 10, 12 different,
the
locations,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then we had, clothing stores and a restaurant. So we were just, it kind of like we were doing
It's all
work for
over the place.
whoever. It was all over the place.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I think it wasn't until like 2008 we had the opportunity then. So the internet kicked in,
Okay.
right? So everybody it
2008?
started. No. Like it was.
it was-
saying
it was-
during that time, right?
Yeah.
It was growing, and we were growing, right?
Yeah.
It was just like, okay, well, what is this internet thing that we
Yeah.
keep hearing about? What are these interwebs?
What's going on the web?
Right. So we were, young enough and foolish enough to be like, yeah, you know what, well, let's try this, right? And back then, people were basically just taking their brochure and putting it on the internet, right? But because of the schooling, because of the expertise, the experience we had up until that point, I was taking it a step further. Right. It was just like, no. Like, we have to approach this a little bit different, right? Like, we started creating, more of a marketing piece, not just an online brochure, right? We were taking what we learned how to do offline, which was create these ads, these messages, and then we started putting them online, right? So the websites we were creating were actually, they were actually great, like getting great results for our customers. And this was really early days, but we came up with the About Us page, the company page. Nobody would think about this stuff.
Exactly.
Because back then it was just like, well, you got a brochure? Yeah. Okay, put it on the internet. That's it, right?
So everybody else figured it out.
we because we had the marketing expertise, we did the storytelling part, right? Yes. And we started, taking the websites at that time to a different level. Okay. Yeah. What that did is that caught the eye of there was a local internet company, right? And they basically sold their software to another company. Right. So they were being acquired. Right. Okay. And we had used their software up until this point, right? We were using their software to build the sites that we were doing, right? Yeah. And so they were kind of like selling off their business. Yeah. And they're like, look, this company bought our software, but we have like 50 customers that need to be serviced. And while we built their websites and took them to this level, right? We need someone who can take them further. And after dealing with you guys, we think that you're a good person, to help them go to the next level. Right. Right. Yeah. And there was a cost, of course. And back then it was like a hefty cost, right? Like
you had to pay for the.
I had to basically, because they're like, listen, we've got 4 other agencies that we're talking to, right? But we want to know who can take it over. The cost was like $30,000. Ooh. And again, all it was 30 grand for basically 50 handshakes. Yeah. It literally was what it was, right? Wow. And it was ballsy as hell, because 30 grand back then was like 100 grand now. Yeah. Right? Because again, we're talking like early mid 2000s. Yeah. Again, jumped on it. And sure enough, they're like, you know what? We actually think that you can help our customers, right? They offered it 3 different payments, right? And we had enough money banked at that point that it was like, okay, let's do this. Let's invest in this. So that introduced us to the whole tech side, right? That's how Jamie came aboard, right? Because Jamie used to work for that company. And then, the big guy up there. Yep. And, so it was like, it not only did it introduce a whole digital element to our company, which was really crucial at the right time. Yes. But because they were a tech company, they had a lot of tech connections, and a lot of their customers were tech. Yeah. Okay. So this is how then we started kind of, rolling into the whole tech scene. Okay. Because it was like, okay, it was all kind of happening at the right time, the right momentum. We had the right service. Now we're introduced to these tech companies, right? And I mean, one led to another one, which led to another one, which is like, I don't know. Like, I mean, again, it was, how can I put this? We weren't just making pretty websites, right? Again, we were digging deeper with these companies, right? And they kind of recognized that, because when we met, we would talk bigger ideas, right? I wasn't just like, oh, well, we can do your web updates for you, right? Yeah. One of those companies was BlackBerry. Okay. And again, in talking with them, they already had like 1 or 2 sites that were used from here, right? And they're like, well, what else can you guys do? And I was like, well, let's talk and find out, what problems you guys have. Now, granted, BlackBerry at that time, already had giant agencies doing big stuff, right? But in talking to them, we had found out that they had all these internal problems, right? Because they were growing at such a pace, and they had all these teams in all these different, buildings and this and that, right? None of them communicated, right? And they had this horrible internal system where they would keep all their files. And if you needed marketing files, you'd have to look through this DOS-like system, right? It was horrible. But it was all locked down based on, like all their VPNs and crap. Right. So we had developed this kind of layer that kind of sat between this giant database of crap, right? And then their whole VPN, right? And it was, we were creating these internal team websites for BlackBerry, right? So again, we got in with just their silly ass little one website, right? But then we started building a second, a third, a fourth, because we came up with this new product, right? This new way of dealing with a problem they had, and we were infiltrating basically, right? Like all of a sudden we did it for a second team.
Yeah.
Second team led to a third team. Then they were like, "Hey, are you guys the guys that did this?"
Yeah.
You know, at one we had like up to 12 different internal teams that we had all these little internal portal-like websites, and again, we treated them like websites.
Yeah.
But we fucking made them rock. So while they had their big B2C agency, which you know, it was like one of the big I don't know, well, again, there were some big companies locally that had one. They did a lot of them, but there was also, I think they had somebody in Toronto. Like, I don't know if it was Shy Day at that point or whatever. So, you know, but again, we didn't have that side. We didn't want that side.
Yes.
We wanted,
You had your niche
we had that niche,
Yeah.
that internal B2B thing,
Yes.
right? And again, it started forming, right?
Yeah.
So again, we got in there and became really like, you know, like gritty, and we stuck in there, right? You know, so
which I'm going to say,
Yeah.
having been here, this is kind of our theme. This is how we work, right? We get our
how
little
we
tentacles in there, and then before you know it, go ahead,
It totally did,
Try and
right?
leave us.
It totally did, right? So
Yeah.
it was so fun, right? And again, it was that whole idea about make yourself indispensable.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
And again, it got to the point where we were the go-to people for these sites.
Right.
And we had 12. So again, we had grown again, right? Everything came great. And again, it was a scary time because BlackBerry was a very big part of this company all over again.
Yep.
And so we were at the garage at this point, the
okay.
smaller
Yeah.
garage. And it was our first studio was like, it was literally a warehouse with a big garage door. And it was just fucking awesome. It was exactly what you'd picture an agency to have.
It was great.
And so sure enough, then, you know, BlackBerry went all to hell.
Oh boy, did it
Right.
ever.
But before it did, you know, we were in talks with them and they were like, listen, you know, we love what you guys are doing. And you know, if we had more private areas, we could give you more business because we don't feel comfortable because it was like our old studio was a big garage.
Yes.
The boardroom table was right in the middle of it.
There was
all.
no rooms,
So
was there?
no, there was no rooms.
Yeah.
There was one big
room.
bullpen, which was awesome.
Yeah.
But they were like, listen, you know, we want to give you more work, but you know, we can't have these kind of meetings, you know, in this kind of environment, right? It's too open and everything. And we can only have certain people hear what we have. So it was like, no problem, right? So that's what inspired us to get this location. Okay. So then it was all that, found this building, bought the unit, right? Renovated it to look like it did, you know, had a big ass boardroom at the front.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And that same summer that we moved in was when all hell broke loose at BlackBerry, and they had pulled all their vendor relationships, right?
Everything.
They were like, at this point, that half the teams that even had internal websites were fired or let go, right? It was a pretty, so again, you know, here we are, we built up to this awesome agency, and only
then
to
it all
crash and
crashes
burn.
down. Yeah.
And all of a sudden it was just like we moved into this giant place. And there was only 3 of us at that point, right? Because again, we had to basically lay everybody off again, which sucked. That was really sucked.
So the percentage of what zfactor was in with BlackBerry.
Yeah.
How much are we talking here?
We were up to like
75%,
close to, you know, about 70%,
70, okay.
right?
So
and then we had a team
30%,
and at that point we had a team of almost 10.
10.
Okay.
So that 30% wouldn't carry everybody.
Oh God, no, right? And again, and it brought us back down to 3 people,
down to
right?
3
Which
people.
was, you know, Jamie, Melina, and then myself.
Yes.
Right. And you know, I remember feeling really shitty about this, right? But I remember Melina was all like, she was all positive and fun. She's like, you know what? We can do this. We're the 3 Musketeers. Well, and it was just, she had this optimism, you know, whether it was because she was really young and naive at that time, but it was just like, I needed to hear that.
Yes.
And even though it was a really shitty year, because it was like, we had these giant offices and there was like one person in one in the other, one in the next, and it was just like crickets all day long.
And then that whole open space.
I know
over
the
there.
back was completely open. I know. It was kind of crappy in that sense, right?
That's
so
scary, I'll bet.
It was. I remember hearing that, right? And it was just like, it was just, you know, it was like we were almost time to give up.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, at this point, I was like thinking to myself, I've been doing this for 12 years, and I've proven I can do it.
Yep, you did
know.
it. Yep.
But now fucking this happened and that happened and that's so I might as well fold, right?
Yep,
And this is that. And then she kind of, you know, Melina's little perk about the whole, you know, 3 Musketeers made me smile and sit there and think. And I was like, you know what? It's been too good it's been too fun of a run.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to go out, I wanted to go out on my terms.
Right.
Not on circumstances of what other fuckers did.
That's right. Exactly.
Right. And I was like, no, you know what? We're going to turn this around. And it was also clear again. Right. Because again, not on other people's accord.
That's right. It's
On my own,
terms.
on my
Yes,
terms.
That's
If
right.
I'm going out,
I'm doing it
gonna
this
do
way.
it my
Yeah.
way.
And I'm going to
crash and burn it.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm going to fucking burn it to the ground.
Right?
Then I'll work on it in my basement and I'll be fine.
So this is when that whole clients for life, mentality came in. So again, it was like no sooner that I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going out on my terms, right? Following week, it's like the phone would start ringing again, right? And somebody from BlackBerry who we worked with, who loved working with us and who loved our mentality, moved to TELUS,
Right.
and he was just like, hey, I'm over at TELUS now. It's a better gig, and I loved working with you. Why don't you come and talk to us, right? So it was just like, and again, it wasn't their B2C shit.
Yeah.
It was the B2B again, right? And so that was just like, okay, and it was just funny, right? It's just a matter of the right mindset, the right attitude, right? It just took us to that next place, and that was TELUS, right? And that was, again, big telco, TELUS, right? And then it went from TELUS, and then again, same idea, land and expand. I was like, I got into that one fucking, one guy. After that, schmoozed my way, met a second, met a third, right? Next thing I know, TELUS was bigger for us than BlackBerry was, right? And TELUS carried us for years, right? The connections we made with TELUS, the people, the jobs, the experience that we got, and the fact that TELUS is, one of Canada's 3 top telcos.
Big time.
A great badge to have on your portfolio, right? And then that was when it was like, it became clear as day. It's like, you know what, all these years, although the very first time we got screwed over with the recession, the industrial recession, the points and where we grew was in the B2B side.
Right.
We knew the people, we understood the technology, right? Let's just own that. And that's when we decided to niche and just, and again, and it's not that we never ever took anybody else after that.
No.
If they had the right money and the job was cool enough and we wanted it, we'd take it. But we changed our focus, our marketing, our brand, and we were putting out to the universe, you know what? We work with B2B technology companies, right? This is what we do. This is who we know. This is who we understand. We know your business. We know your product.
That's right.
We know how technology works. Like, let's fucking talk.
Let's own that space.
And that's honestly, and again, that has been the best thing that we could have done, because that's what's now taken us to this next level.
To where we are now.
Right.
Exactly.
And again, now it's just like, I'm a fucking proponent of niching. I'm people have to niche, in my opinion, in this space. I think they're crazy not to.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the whole story of how we actually made it to 25 fucking years.
So
right?
By your account, it has.
Holy shit! I've been talking for like almost an hour. Sorry, guys.
Take a drink there, my friend. You
Look at this. Usually I'm on like drink 2 or 3.
I was just gonna say,
right?
I'm on my second. You're only doing your first. So, but yeah, so the I think the main theme here of this is perseverance. Correct,
dude. Perseverance is.
If you love what you're doing,
yep,
you're going to make it work somehow.
Absolutely.
Right? But also the underlying theme that I love about this is that client for life, the customer for life.
Absolutely.
How many times, like even that one guy from TELUS shifted to the next company, which brought us on board with that.
Absolutely. And then again, took her off to another one. Absolutely, right?
So this is the kind of stuff where it's like, you do this, there's the passion that is there. Do you know what I mean? And this is what you love to do. And people key into that.
They do.
I think.
They pick up that energy.
They do.
They pick up that vibe.
Like, imagine if you went in to these people and said, yeah, we'll do whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever you want.
Right.
I don't.
Sure.
Just pay me. They're not going to fucking take you
and
with
they
them
know
when they
that,
leave.
right?
I know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you're like,
absolutely.
Okay, what's your problems? Let's figure this out. Let's figure out how we're going to make this.
Fun part of this.
That was the best part,
right?
Exactly.
Absolutely,
and somebody's like,
it was.
holy shit, these guys are going to come in here and they're going to help me with my issues. They're
So
not looking
true.
for cash. They're not saying, oh, we're going to pay for the nose through this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
No. This is what we do. We help you be the best customer or be the best product.
And again, and it wasn't just about, you're right, because it was never about the bottom line.
It's not.
It
No,
wasn't. We weren't
not.
like, oh, we could screw them with so much. Because
That's
I know
right.
some agencies that's their
That would do
They
this.
just want dollars. They see
Exactly.
dollars where we were more
Right.
jazzed about trying to solve their problems and to be a legitimate partner.
Yes.
And again, that's what made the difference.
Yes.
Right.
And the funny thing too is like I loved it. I never heard that story with BlackBerry. I think that's
Oh, no?
awesome. No.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, okay, all your major advertising is taken care of.
Yeah.
What else do you need? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like
Yep.
not like you're cutthroat going in after that kind of that
It's true.
element. You're like, okay, there's got to be some holes here that you guys.
Well, and this is
need
what we
filled.
tell everybody, right?
Yes.
Like once you're in there, don't just accept, the one job and you're gone.
That's right.
Find out
Yes.
how else you can help them,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Oh, dude, like there was so much.
Especially a company of that size, there's going to be issues and that they
Absolutely.
need fixing, right?
And I mean, it's up to you to also find out how you can. So again, we're not order takers.
No.
Okay.
No.
And again,
No.
nor should anybody ever sit there and wait for the customer to tell them what they want, right?
That's right.
Ask questions, find out how they work.
That's right.
Find out what they need
Yeah.
to help take them to that next level, right? All of a sudden, you've created, their brand identity, right? Well, do they need a presentation? Can you help them with the presentations? Do they need vehicle wraps? If they're, servicing people from door to door, what about the direct marketing?
Right.
What about their social? There's so many
Right.
opportunities
Right.
that, all you got to do is wait for that, or just look for the opportunity to land. Once you've landed, dude, you just
Yeah.
got to run with it and
That's
find out
exactly
where
it.
else, like the tentacles, like you said, right?
What did you call it? It was
Land and expand.
Land and expand. I love that. That's
Dude, land
fucking
and-
awesome.
totally. That's
I want to see that on a t-shirt.
That's one of the final lessons. All right, so
Is it?
I've got lessons here.
Oh.
So I have a list of Z-Factor lessons for business. My 10.
Yes.
Okay, but there's still a lot more other shit like I want to talk about, of course.
Okay.
Which is crazy. But throughout this process, some crazy things I've had to overcome.
No. Okay.
Challenges, right?
Oh, yep.
So the funniest thing, the most obvious one, age. Back then, I was too young.
Yes.
Right? Here, I was a 20-something guy
Right.
going to these companies that were, already worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And they were like, I'm not going to listen to this
What the
25-year-old
hell
kid.
is he talking about?
This is one of those industries, and this is why I'm shocked when I hear about ageism in our space, because this is the kind of industry people take you more seriously
When you're
the more
older.
seasoned, the more experienced you have.
Exactly.
Here I was a young kid, and again, I was a young hotshot, right? I was, like this. Everybody was like, oh yeah, he's so cool, his designs. But I was a kid,
Yeah.
right? I was trying to grow facial hair, right? I had a gross goatee back then, not this beautiful mane of a beard I have now. But I mean, again, it was silly things like this, right? I would dress up in suits, right? I would do anything I could
Yeah.
to make myself look older and to be, present myself as more experienced, which is ironic.
Yep.
But that was a huge challenge I had to overcome, right?
Interesting.
Because again, it was just like it was hard for people to take. So it was nice when you would deal with people over the phone because then age didn't matter.
It does, yeah,
But
it's-
when they would see you,
Yeah. They're like, what the hell? This was who I was talking to?
but then they'd always say the same thing, and it always played up. They're like, "Wow, I thought you'd be much older." And I'm like, "Oh, I just look very young for my." And I would always throw that in there. People tell me I look 10 years younger than I actually am.
I'm really 40.
Yeah, right. Like how odd is that? Here now, I'm
Right?
telling people I want to be 20 years younger. Like then I'm pretending to be 20 years older.
I don't want to be 50.
Holy cow!
That's hilarious.
So age was definitely something I had to overcome. But then with the age and then the whole suits thing and everything else, right? It was like I completely lost track of who I was.
Who you were. Yeah.
Right? Because again, I was trying to be
become this-
somebody I wasn't.
Yes, you become this persona that
Yeah.
you think is what people want to see, right?
And that's true, right? It was like here I'm struggling for all this, to be taken seriously as an expert, to be the expert.
Right.
But then it completely backfired because then I was just like, I'm so unhappy, right? Because although I did believe everything I was doing and selling and everything, it just didn't feel like me. It wasn't my agency. It wasn't me, right?
So if you had a do-over,
Yeah.
would you do that differently? Or do you think that's a necessary necessary path for you to have taken?
Well,
to
that
get
was
to this?
for the time, it
that-
was the
at that
necessary
point.
path,
Okay.
right? Because now it's like there's so much that's done online. I mean, again, we've worked with people for years in the same town,
Yeah.
and we still haven't met in
Yeah.
person.
This is true.
right? So now it's like there's so much more shit out there. Like it's a different time now than it was
It
back
is,
then.
but this is what I'm saying is like you'll meet a client like this.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it
No,
doesn't
you're
matter.
right.
It doesn't matter
Absolutely.
what you look like now. It's like fuck. I don't care what you think.
Yeah, it's true, right? Or at least we're that way anyway. Some agencies might be a little more, tight ass about
right?
this.
You would have a whole, kind of, this, you're meeting this person first, and then worm your way in.
Exactly.
No, we're not like that at all. This is this is what you see is what you get. We're WYSIWYG for sure. Right?
I like that though. I do like that.
Yeah, but that's good. I think that's kind of one of those things. But obviously, it was a necessary step for you.
It was
to go
especially
through.
because at the time, again, there was no other way to go about it. Right. We had to cut our teeth.
Yeah.
Right. Because again, the web wasn't what it is now. Like this generation has no idea how great what we have right now is. You know what I mean? Because back then there was everybody would hold cards close to their chest. You couldn't learn. The only way you could learn is from fucking up.
Yeah.
That was the only way. And again, that's why throughout my whole story of 25 years, there was so many fuck ups because that was the only way I was going to learn. Man, I got a whole book on fuck ups in that case. But it's true.
Maybe that's the next episode.
Yeah, right.
Fuck ups.
Fuck ups. Just fuck ups. Another thing that happened a lot of is I was taken advantage of a lot. It was like you'd get taken advantage from customers.
Yes.
Right? Because they would like, they would sense you were naive.
Yeah.
And you would take anybody on, right? When you were young and just hungry. You're like, yeah, give it all to me, right?
Yeah.
Well, then you'd extend terms, which obviously led to never receiving money, right? 1 year early on, man, we wrote off like over $40,000 in bad debt. 40. And back then, I think we were only doing like $250 a year. So that was like
that's a big
huge chunk, right?
Wow. People just
Stiffing you or making you work more for less or trying to dictate their terms or how to work with them, and then you'd get like, so that was just clients and that was just brutal. But then it was also be vendors try and take advantage of you. People, it's like the dirt bags. They sensed, blood in the water. They would come. I would have all these like, oh, you know what? I'm a branding expert and I need a top creative agency like you to be by. I'll introduce you to this and that and this and that. But I need these kind of terms and I need this kind of flexibility. And I also need an office. Do you mind if I just take your office and this? And it was just like,
wow.
And you so want to believe.
Yeah.
Right. But in the end, it's like you keep getting shortchanged. Yeah. So, man, I don't know how much that happens anymore. I don't know if that happens as much anymore.
I would imagine it would. There's people just going to take advantage of people no matter what you do.
No matter what the business
no matter
is.
what space you're in. You know what I mean? Like, it's really sad. But I think, again, it's one of those kind of scenarios where it's like you've learned from that. You would never do that now.
No, God no. God no.
Exactly.
Right, 'cause then you can smell it a mile away.
Right. Yeah, you can like fucking
but
peddle
again,
that somewhere else.
If you can go online and find out, ways to tell a con.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you couldn't do that before.
You couldn't do that.
You had to just sit there and
I know. See, this is the kind of thing this nowadays you kind of know this stuff, right? You're aware of what a scam is, right? Yeah. Back then, we really didn't.
Oh, geez. Managing money was a hard one.
Oh,
right? Yeah.
I think as designers,
it was a challenge.
Okay,
yeah, as designers,
we're not good with that kind of side of things.
No, I don't think so at all. Right?
Which is kind of sad. And I'm impressed that you are good at that sort of thing. Like you're good at design and you're also really good at that business end of things too.
Yeah, but again, that I had to learn so many ways how to pay, how to pay vendors when you have no money, right? Like how to what the check is. You haven't gotten it yet? Okay, if you don't get it by next week, I'm gonna just cancel that check and cut you a new one and drop that one. And so all of a sudden, I got another 30 days
back onto the ex's accountant father. Can I get some money soon, please?
Managing money was cut, but I think ultimately I learned how to run lean.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? I didn't buy brand new computers.
Yeah,
I always bought used ones.
Yeah.
Right? And I didn't replace computers annually.
Yeah.
Right? I would let them run for years.
Yep.
Right? Before you would. And sometimes maybe I should have, a year or two earlier, I should have upgraded. But I mean, again, you kind of figured out, even the furniture we had at the time was basically, basic IKEA shit.
Yep.
It was the flat, cheap desks with the screw on legs that, would wobble. So what you'd do is you'd screw 2 or 3 together. And so they wouldn't wobble as much because there was more of them.
That's awesome.
Oh God, that was so funny.
Problem solving. That's what we're about.
But it is true though. The
Totally.
money part, and now it's like a different story, right? And now it's like, now it's like money is it's not the easiest part by any means, but the managing money is easy because again, it's a different mentality, right?
Yes.
Like again, the goal was always to save, to build up enough that would, get you a month. If you had no work for a month, could you make it?
Could you survive it?
Could you? Then it came 1 month to 3 months. 3 months to 6 months, right? You'd always shoot for this, pad, right?
Yes.
This nest egg or whatever for emergencies.
Just a runway, they call it in the startup
and
area.
that's exactly it, right?
Yes.
And then this way, it's like so when you got to like 6 months, it was just like it just felt great, right? Because then you could risk and take more chances, right?
Yes.
So we got to the point where we were like 6 months. We had 6 months of runway, and it was just it bought us a lot of good opportunities, right? We got to take some more risks, which definitely helped.
Which is good.
But a lot of that was because we weren't, we weren't fancy like we are now. Not that we're overly fancy, but we wouldn't do the shit now that back then. Again, the furniture and the garage, in all fairness, was kind of cheap.
It was, but
It was amazing. It was so creative.
It was so cool.
It was
yes.
fucking great.
I remember
space.
going there because I was dating one of your.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, but it was all open, and I was just like, holy shit! I'm at the newspaper, the local newspaper, and it's all like, the
Typewriters and
the shitty neon lighting and all this stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome!
It was. I remember
It was so cool.
We'd open up those garage doors, and it was just like it's like you're working outside.
Yes.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. But again, it was for all intents and purposes, own that space.
Yep.
Okay. So again, I wasn't renting.
Yep.
I went to buy.
Went
so
and
then
bought it.
at least that money I was putting every month went to a mortgage,
Yes.
not to somebody else's
Not
rent.
to somebody else's rent.
And then again, kept growing that. Then grew it into this space,
Into
which
this
did
one.
the same thing. I found a space that we could buy, not rent.
Yes.
Same concept, and that helped because then when things got tight, you had a pool of credit that you could pull from, right?
Yep.
So I found the hardest part about dealing with money wasn't necessarily the money, but it was dealing with the banks.
Oh.
Fucking they're pigs. Oh, even today, I hate them. I do. They try to, screw you. The banks have done a good job at figuring out how to screw people from every orifice in your body. Right? Like you think you've been able to block one. Nope, they found other holes, and it's a horrible business.
That's why there are no. That's why banks are always rich.
Yeah, exactly.
They know how to
right?
screw everybody, right?
They really do, right? All right, everybody. You know what? I had a hell of a lot more to say than I thought I was going to. I thought I was going to jam all this information into one episode, but
What were you thinking?
So, what was I thinking? Got so many more things to cover in the next episode, kind of like my highs, lows, memorable moments. Obviously, the Z Factor top 10 or maybe 11-ish, business tips on how to make it this far. And of course, the funnest part is what the past 25 years, the biggest changes in the past 25 years and how the industry has changed and flopped from one extreme to the other. So please come back and join us next week and hear part 2 of, well, I don't know, the Z Factor 25-year agency run.